twist so bold, stories untamed, let the plot unfold. Click that button, join the run. Videos bright as the morning sun. Laughs and thrills, it's all cascade. Welcome to the world of Unfornicated. Every clip's a wild surprise. Through the screen we touch the skies. Unfornicated's got the groove, always fresh, always on the move. Come along, don't hesitate. This channel's fire, no need to wait. Content's blazing, hearts elated. Your next obsession, Unfornicated. So like and sub, don't be misled. Dream big here at Unfornicated. We're here to shine, no masquerade. Stay a while in Unfornicated. Come along, don't hesitate. This channel's fire, no need to wait. Content's blazing, hearts elated. Your next obsession, Unfornicated. So like and sub, don't be misled. Dream big here at Unfornicated. We're here to shine, no masquerade. Stay a while in Unfornicated. Scrolling feeds of endless dread. Truth and lies fight in my head. Echoes of a war unsaid. I'll stand strong, won't be misled. Won't be misled. Bots and trolls with red pill lies. Whisper secrets in disguise. I'll see through their hollow cries. Cut the strings, I'm breaking ties. Oh, Unfornicated won't be played. Their twisted games, I ain't afraid. Oh, I'll shine light on their charade. In this battle truth won't fade.
Look, audio, what can I say? Um, the reason why I mute the microphone is because I have a monitor speaker and it will sometimes pick it up. So sometimes it's a little convoluted. So anyway, let's start over. Welcome back to Unfornicated again. Thanks for joining me tonight. For those who are new here, this is Unfornicated, where gloves are off, facts are loaded, and echo chamber gets no quarter. As you saw, it's libation time because tonight's a little bit of a different night than what we're used to. Yes, Foxworth, that's like the center spot. I mean, that's a given. You know, I don't have nothing to say to that. I'm sorry. All right. So tonight's stream isn't our usual festival of flat earth roastings, weekly STD reports. This one's a little heavier. This one's real. We're gonna kind of go back to the history books a little bit, similar to what we did with cryptology. And this one matters in a way that goes just way beyond algorithms and the comment section dumpster fires. We're not talking about conspiracy theories tonight. What we are talking about is going to be the Navajo Code Talkers and the other native tribes who were the warriors who turned their voice into a weapon during time of war. Now, they weren't warriors because they were native. They were warriors because they volunteered to fight for a country that spent centuries trying to erase them. And when they showed up, they didn't just bring rifles. They brought a language and a culture. One the U.S. tried to wipe out, and one Imperial Japan and the Axis powers couldn't break. Not once, not ever. But before we dive into the unbreakable brilliance of the Code Talkers, I need to hit pause and give you a little backstory, especially if you're new here. Because this isn't just some distant chapter in a dusty history book. This one hits close for me, real close. I served as a cryptologic technician in the U.S. Navy. That means I spent years in the signal intelligence world, pulling signal from noise, decrypting enemy intentions, and working alongside some of the sharpest minds in the business. I've worn the headset. I've scanned the logs. I've been inside the rooms where one wrong keystroke can jam up a real-world operation. But here's the thing. All of our cutting-edge tools, all the satellites, the black boxes, the frequency-hopping wizardry, it all owes a debt to a bunch of young men. And specifically, we're going to talk about, spend a lot of time tonight on the Navajo Marines of World War II, who took a language that this country tried to erase and turned it into the most unbreakable code the world has ever seen. No processors, no crypto gear, just memory, voice, and a language America once tried to bury. So when I say this story matters, I'm not saying it from the outside. I'm saying it from someone who's lived inside that world, who knows what happens when the signal gets lost and the enemy's listening. And I'm here to make damn sure that the legacy of the Code Talkers doesn't get garbled, deleted, or memory holed ever again. This isn't nostalgia. It's a reckoning. And I'm going, and it's going to be told in a way it should have been all along. The unfornicated way. Because America has a long, proud history of screwing over the very people it ends up relying on. And tonight, we're talking about a group so unbreakable, so uncrackable, that not even Imperial Japan's top code breakers could touch them. Again, they didn't use machines. They didn't use ciphers. They used something far more dangerous. They used their culture. And this is the story of the Code Talkers. We're talking Navajo, Comanche, Choctaw, men who fought like hell, spoke in secrets, and got thanked decades later with a coin, a headline, and a forgotten Department of Defense webpage. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. My intent tonight was to kind of create a nice visual going on in the background and things like that. But I found myself revising this script multiple times over. And primarily because I wanted to do it justice, and primarily because there were some things I learned about this as I did this. And this topic, to me, needs that effort. The hope that I have is that eventually I'll turn this into a video later on with, some more bells and whistles, a little more visuals going on and things like that. But it's going to get there eventually. But tonight, not so much. There'll be a few things here and there, I think, but we'll sort it out. What you just heard was a Hollywood rendition of a Navajo Code Talker speaking to another one, and also turning around and sending those same commands to a battleship in off the coast of Iwo Jima. So you notice it doesn't have, even though they used their language, it was a language that no one really understood outside of their own tribe. It was a little more than that because it was still a code. But I'm jumping a little bit ahead. Let's kind of go back to a little bit in the beginning. Let's not romanticize the buildup here. U.S. was basically playing cultural genocide bingo with indigenous communities. They stripped their names, they outlawed their language, and they tried to Christianize them and hoped they forgot who they were. But irony's a motherfucker. Like an abusive ex crawling back because it forgot its network password, Uncle Sam suddenly realized those languages might be useful if only for war. Allied transmissions were getting intercepted faster than the bootleg stream of the Super Bowl. The Germans were fluent in English, French, and even a little American arrogance. Every order we sent, they heard it. They anticipated it, countered it. That's when the 36th Division realized that something the Germans didn't. Choctaw soldiers, fluent in a language that had no written form, no Rosetta Stone course, and zero chance of being decrypted by a Prussian wire monkey. Those messages, instant game changers. Big gun move to the right flank becomes a linguistic ghost. German operators were left listening to what sounded at best like alien music. And the results? American advances with no enemy resistance. I mean, tactical surprise for the first time in months. And the Choctaws saved lives with every syllable. Welcome to the original too smart for you moment in American military linguistics. Now, when they returned from World War I, no parade, no thanks, just more marginalization, more broken treaties, and more don't speak your language here. Now, fast forward to 2008, it took until 2008 specifically for Congress to say, oops, our bad, thanks. That's 90 years too late. That's not delayed recognition. That's historical gaslighting. There were 19 documented code talkers from the Choctaw tribe during World War I. And they were specifically instrumental in the menus that were going offensive. I'm sorry I butchered the shit out of that, but that's just bear with me. The unit they were assigned to, 36th Infantry Division. They were first used in October of 1918, and they were recognized 90 years later. So that was the first use. But hey, it worked so far the first time. Why not a second time? Now, after the Japanese handed us our collective ass at Pearl Harbor, one thing became crystal clear. Our communications were about as secure as a wet napkin in a hurricane. I mean, the Japanese weren't just good at code breaking, they were exceptionally good. They were the standard. They were organized, strategic, and absolutely ruthless. They were intercepting U.S. communications across the Pacific, and not just casually. They were routinely deciphering American Army, Navy, and diplomatic traffic. They broke early U.S. Army field ciphers and enciphered plaintext traffic, exploiting sloppy communications and shortcuts and predictable encoding before the Navajo system changed the game. They'd even broken into air-ground radio circuits, the communications between air traffic control and the planes. And they were picking off Allied troop movements like they had Google Maps before it was cool. Entire American positions were compromised because Japanese SIGINT operators were reading our mail before it was dry. In some cases, they intercepted radio reports and ambushed within the hour. We weren't just leaking information, we were hemorrhaging it. Japan's Y stations, the intercept posts, were spread across the Pacific. And these weren't your amateur ham radio operators. They were trained linguists and radio experts working in sync with field commanders to act on what they heard in real time. And we had nothing that could stop them. We had no quantum encryption, no complex cipher machines for field use, just basic radio and way too predictable encoding. So what did the Marine Corps do? Well, in a rare moment of actual brilliance, they took a hard look at what the Japanese couldn't break. They realized, hey, what if we use a language no white bureaucrat has ever bothered to understand? Enter Philip Johnston, missionary's kid, fluent in Navajo, and apparently the only person in the room not suffering from strategic constipation. He proposed what must have sounded completely batshit crazy at the time. Let's use a language the U.S. literally tried to beat out of the school children as our most secure form of military communications. So the Marine Corps recruited 29 Navajo men, Men who had been punished for speaking their mother tongue, who grew up in a country that erased their culture, then turned around and said, hey, can you come save our ass real quick? And they didn't just speak Navajo, they engineered it. They adapted a secret language into a living encryption system on the fly. I mean, that's not just communications, that's battlefield linguistics with a kill count. They designed a cryptographic system that paired Navajo words with complex military concepts. Tank became the Navajo word for tortoise. Submarine became the Navajo word for iron fish. Battleship became the Navajo word for whale. A cruiser became the Navajo word for small whale. Every letter, every weapon, every syllable, every command was encoded, spoken, transmitted, received, and understood in seconds. They had to invent words on the fly because the original 211-word code book was good. But as the war dragged on, military kept evolving. So the Code Talkers started making new terms mid-battle. But that's why it's not just a language, it's a culture. Because they shared a culture and they were using descriptive words, they knew what the other person was saying without that code book as the word was invented. And they also changed the phonetic alphabet. So instead of having Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, those things don't translate into the Navajo language. Instead, they've created a code, or phonetic alphabet and code, based off of animals. Alpha became ant. Bravo became bear. Charlie became cat. Delta, dive bomber, became chicken hawk. A grenade became a potato. And this wasn't just some cutesy linguistic art project. This was a code within a code. I mean, phonetic substitutions wrapped inside a tonal language no outsider had mastered. A verbal encryption system that could be spoken under fire and decrypted on the fly with near zero error rate. And faster than any cipher machine we currently had. And still more secure than any book, because there was no book. The best part? The Japanese never broke it. They couldn't. Because this wasn't math, this wasn't substitution tables, stuff we learned in the military now. It was culture. It was history. It's an oral language full of idioms, inflections, and constructs that didn't translate into anything the enemy could grasp. To the Japanese, it sounded like noise or being underwater. To us, it was victory in real time. So before the Code Talkers, we were broadcasting every move like it was AM radio. Call out Casey Kasem in the top 40. After the Code Talkers, we were speaking in ghosts. And the enemy listened, but couldn't do a goddamn thing about it. Now imagine this. You're 20 years old, you're lying in volcanic ash, bullets are cracking overhead, and your squad spread thin along a very narrow line. And every second counts. You've got a field radio, a code book, and a decision. Hope the enemy doesn't intercept the message, or risk it all sending in plain English. Most U.S. comms at the time were slow as hell. I mean, you had to use code books. You had to perform time-consuming lookups. I mean, picture it. Hands are muddy and you're flipping pages of a book to get to the right word. You had to convert it to ciphers. Then you had to transmit it. Then you had to do the opposite on the other side, who had to decode it. That worked great in theory, until artillery starts landing nearby and your radio post is getting destroyed. Enter the Navajo Code Talkers. These men could encrypt, transmit, and decode entire battle orders on the fly. No code books, no machines, just memory. With a little bit of training and a language no one else understood. While traditional encryption might take 30 minutes, a code talker could do it under 30 seconds. Do you want the actual numbers? Because this isn't folklore. This is hard data and battlefield logistics. The average code talker transmission time took between 20 and 30 seconds per message. The equivalent time using a standard encryption method, the same ones that Japan was listening to, 30 minutes to an hour. Confirmed error rate during combat transmissions, 0. Confirmed error rate using code books, ciphers, a lot. Number of documented transmissions at Iwo Jima were over 800 in 48 hours, and all of them flawless. The average vocabulary memorized by a code talker was 600 terms, including phonetic alphabet, animals, tactical weapons, and ad hoc phrases. So not just messages, but the time to encode and decode complex artillery orders, under a minute. And that's not just fast. That's faster than shouting fire and hoping somebody's listening. These guys could be dodging mortars and still drop comms more accurately than half the officers writing after-action reports. It's short, it's deadly. It's the reason Marines didn't die waiting for backup that never came. This wasn't a novelty act. This was infrastructure, wired in tradition, powered by memory, and encrypted in blood. On the other hand, Japanese SIGINT guys were pulling their hair out. They'd nailed every other Allied pattern up to this point. But Navajo? Might as well have been alien radio. At Saipan, code talkers were used to call in naval artillery strikes. I mean, picture a 19-year-old transmitting naval gunfire coordinates using a language the Pentagon once tried to eliminate, guiding shells onto enemy bunkers with GPS-level precision. Rinse and repeat. On Peleliu, code talkers directed units through jungle ambushes where every step meant death. Communications had to be accurate, fast, uncrackable. If you fucked it up, well, your own guys could die. And still, 0 documented errors in over 800 transmissions during that campaign alone. And here's a detail that makes this whole story even heavier. Many code talkers were assigned bodyguards. And here's the thing. It's not to protect them from the Japanese, but from us. It's a detail that was somewhat romanticized by Hollywood with the movie Windtalkers. But the military was so damn terrified that a code talker might be captured and tortured for intelligence that they sometimes posted a fellow Marine with explicit unspoken orders. If he's about to be taken alive, kill him first. That's not hyperbole. That's policy. These men were considered so valuable, so irreplaceable, that their deaths were preferred to their capture. Imagine carrying that weight, knowing that you're on a vital mission, but also expendable in the worst possible way. Or on the flip side, you're responsible for the person that you are sitting in the foxhole with through all these battles to ensure he doesn't get taken alive. That's some pretty serious weight to carry around. Captured, code talkers were a liability so great that the fallback plan was a bullet. It's not drama or fiction. It's fucking doctrine. Colonel Howard Connor, the 5th Marine Division CO, said it straight. Were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima. That's a battlefield commander admitting that a bunch of young Native men with radios held the line when logistics, encryption machines, and backup plans couldn't. While the Japanese were intercepting decoding Allied comms everywhere else, they ran face first into the brick wall of the code talkers. And that wall spoke fluent survival, dipped in cultural endurances, and a transmission rate that would make IBM blush even today. So here's what the brochures forget to tell you. This wasn't just a Navajo operation. It wasn't one tribe, one language, or one story. The most prominent story, but not the only one. It was a full-on intertribal network of linguist warfighters, spread across theaters, dialects, and decades. You want a bigger picture? Great, strap in. In Europe, it was the Comanche who whispered through the gunfire. They were part of the 4th Infantry Division, landing on D-Day, sending coded reports while half their unit was getting mowed down by machine gun fire. Comanche code talkers used about 100 coded terms, much smaller than the Navajo list, but still unbroken. Tank became turtle, machine gun became sewing machine. And Hitler? They just called him crazy white man. Accurate. And how long did it take to get a thank you? How long did it take to get recognition from Congress or the government? Try 50 years. Charles Shibbity, the last surviving Comanche code talker, was honored by France in 1999. Because apparently, being a crucial part of the largest amphibious invasion in human history doesn't get you a medal unless the sequel's already out. 27 Meskwaki men enlisted in 1941, representing over 16% of the tribe's total population at the time. Let that number sink in. 16% of the population. That's like sending your entire high school graduating class to war. They arrived in North Africa, transmitting encoded updates and baffled German intercept teams. Why does no one talk about this? Because they weren't officially code talkers until decades later. Just brave men with language the U.S. tried to ignore until it was useful. The Hopi and Lakota also contributed. We're talking tactical communications in the Pacific and European fronts. Their roles are even less documented because they were often lumped into generic scouts or messengers. And here's the kicker. They weren't given the title code talker, not officially. Not until family members dug through archives years later and realized, holy shit, Grandpa was encrypting battlefield communications in a dying language while being shot at. Most people don't even know Japan invaded U.S. territory during World War II. The Aleutian Islands? Yeah, the Japanese took the islands of Attu and Kiska. And it was Lingnet code talkers, yes, it's a form of Inuit, who supported counter operations in Alaska using their coastal dialect to secure communications under Arctic conditions. Now, while the Axis cracked every form of code at some point, field ciphers, code books, early machine ciphers, even Enigma was eventually broken. Not one tribal language system got broken. Not one. The Axis tried phonetic reconstruction. Think of it as A equals N. Substitution cipher. Didn't work. They tried finding tribal POWs. Didn't work. They even suspected the U.S. had invented a synthetic language like JR token, but with a vendetta. The reality? You were just listening to history's first encrypted battlefield podcast, broadcasting the very voices you spent centuries silencing. Here's a few other numbers for you. The number of Navajos enlisted in the Marines as part of the original code talkers, or part of the most well-known code talkers, approximately 400 total. The number of Comanche with the 4th Infantry Division in Europe, 14. Choctaw during World War I, 19. Meskwaki in North Africa, 27. Hopi, Lakota, Cree, and others. We're uncertain of the numbers, still being identified. The error rate, 0. I can't even do a stream without having an error. No one's shooting at me. The recognition delays of these tribes, up to 90 years in some cases. So no, this isn't just a Navajo story. It's a Native story. A story of men who were told not to speak their language and then used it to win wars. A story the Pentagon borrowed silence and forgot until someone dug it up and said, hold up, wait a minute. August of 1945, the war is over. Japan surrenders. America takes a victory lap the size of the goddamn Pacific. But white ticker tape falls over Wall Street. Guess who isn't in the parade? The Code Talkers came home with no headlines, no decorations, and no fucking clue how their story would be buried deeper than an undisclosed CIA site. Their mission? Classified. Their contributions? Not necessarily erased, hidden. In endless boxes under inches of dust to be forgotten. Their silence? Mandatory. They weren't even allowed to tell their families what they'd done. I mean, think about that. You could spend years decoding live fire battlefield transmissions that saved thousands of lives, and you still had to come home and pretend you're just a fucking supply clerk. Meanwhile, the reality? These heroes returned to third world conditions inside their own country. No electricity, no running water, no job training. In some cases, no VA benefits. Welcome home, soldier. Please resume starving quietly. The GI Bill didn't apply the same. Those VA benefits were spotty at best. They're spotty for anybody at best. Some couldn't even vote in the states they lived in. Others were still classified as wards of the federal government. In Arizona and New Mexico, many Native veterans weren't even granted citizenship until 1948. Hey, you can go die for us, but you can't be one of us. So let's talk a little bit about this whitewashing metric of sorts, shall we? This post-war recognition. Code Talkers were classified or not declassified until 1968, 23 years later. Now, how many years was it before the first formal recognition? Well, the Navajo weren't recognized until 2001, 56 years post-war. The Choctaw from World War I, 2008, 90 fucking years later. The Comanche, 1999. But wait, that was by France, not even the US. Full tribal roll call is still incomplete as of 2025. Formal medal ceremonies missed due to deaths, dozens. I mean, you can't thank someone after they're dead and call it justice. You can't hide their legacy for half a century and act like we always planned to. That's not delayed honor. That's weaponized amnesia. And when the military finally got around to saying thank you, it wasn't because they suddenly grew a conscience. It was because veterans and military families demanded it. It took lawsuits, petitions, documentaries, and bad PR. One thing the U.S. government always hates is bad PR. You know what kind of courage it takes to spend your youth watching your culture be outlawed, then trust that same system with your life in battle? I mean, that's not patriotism. It's a form of spiritual judo, blind faith, and hope for the best. And they pulled it off while being eased from the footnotes of history books you probably hated reading in 10th grade. So no, there was no parade, no recruitment poster, no blockbuster movie, except maybe one. Just a generation of warriors who kept their mouths shut because they were ordered to. And when they finally could speak, most of the country had already changed the channel. By the time U.S. government got around to saying thank you, Most of the code talkers were either dead or one bad flu season away from it. I mean, recognition didn't arrive on time. It showed up like an awkward eulogy from the guy who skipped the funeral. I mean, in 2001, 50 fucking 6 years later, after the end of World War II, the original 29 code talkers were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. It's not even a military medal. It's a civilian medal. That's longer than the entire Cold War, plus the time it took to reboot Star Wars twice. And most of them were already gone. Let me spell it out very bluntly. They were honored in absentia, because they were already fucking dead. Their family showed up in their place, grieving, but proud, and probably wondering why the government was 60 years late with a box and a handshake. And now they're a goddamn slide deck. A bullet point in someone's DEI briefing. Look how inclusive we were. No, you fucker. No, you weren't. You tried to erase their language. Then you weaponized it. Then you forgot. And now you're trying to backfill the guilt with PowerPoints and photo ops. This isn't honor. This is tokenism with a press kit. The code talkers didn't ask to be mascots for military multiculturalism. They asked for basic fucking dignity. And instead, they got history repackaged into theme hashtags and brochures nobody reads. But let's be clear, most of these guys didn't even want fame. But they sure as hell deserved respect. And that respect should have come when they were 22 years old with a radio on their back, not 82 with a walker, wearing a borrowed suit. The respect showed up when the man was gone. But the insult, that showed up right on time. And while we're handing out medals decades too late, let's not forget, some tribes haven't even been officially recognized. There are families sitting on field reports and service records just waiting for someone in the Pentagon to say, hey, yeah, you know what? That counts. You want to honor these warriors? Start by not reducing them to a Heritage Month content. Put their names in classrooms. Put their language in textbooks. Fund their communities. Remember their names, not just when it's convenient, but always. Because a medal doesn't make up for a lifetime of being invisible, especially not when it comes with a staged photo and a thank you for your service that was rehearsed in the mirror 5 minutes before the ceremony. You'd think after all these decades of silence, suppression, and late-ass medal ceremonies, we finally learned our lesson, right? That the story of the code talkers would be taught, remembered, and protected. But no. Let's go back to erasing them. Only this time, we're doing it digitally. March 2025. Someone at the Department of Defense quietly pulled a vanishing act. Entire web pages dedicated to code talkers, gone. No press release, no update, not even a 404 error. Just deleted like a drunk text from an institutional memory. You ask the DOD today, the DOD, Department of Defense today, and you get a blank stare. We're working on a consolidated historical context and archives. Sure you are. Meanwhile, the story of the code talkers, once a proud bullet point, has become a footnote scrawled on the back of a napkin in some forgotten filing cabinet. This is what institutional amnesia looks like. You don't need fire to burn history. You just need neglect, sanitation, and a branding strategy. I mean, strip away the blood, smooth out the rough edges, replace sacrifice with symbolism, and suddenly warriors become costumes. Go to your average war museum, and you'll find a whole wing for the Enigma machine, complete with 3D models, captured devices, a Tom Hanks quote, and an overpriced gift shop. The code talkers, one dusty panel, maybe a photo, maybe. Instead of full acknowledgement, we get branding. The Department of Defense is happy to shout out Native warriors during recruitment drives or Heritage Month. But when it comes to dig into what actually happened, silence. Because the truth is messy. And messy doesn't look good in PowerPoint. Think of it this way. The DoD website references the Code Talkers up until 2025, over 60. As of March 2025, less than 5. Members of a number of tribes with unrecognized Code Talkers as of 2025, over a dozen. And don't expect the public schools to clean this up. Most history books still treat the Code Talkers like a side quest. It's mentioned once, right after Rosie the Riveter and before the internment camps, they also try to forget. No details, no names. Just a vague, they helped. Did a little more than help. You want to know how history dies? It dies when no one guards it. It dies when the men who lived it are gone. And all we've got left is a government, PR team deciding what legacy should look like. The men who held the line with their voices are mostly gone. The systems they built ignored. Their language still endangered. Their recognition still conditional. We didn't just erase them from the history once, we just kept doing it. And we kept doing it every time we opt for comfort over truth. Every time a website goes offline, every time a classroom skips the hard part, every time someone says, well, that was a long time ago. History doesn't die because it's old. It dies because people let it. Now, I can already see the comment section now. This feels kind of woke. Or, why are you bringing race into it? Or, stop rewriting history. Virtue signal munch? Or how about, you're just trying to make white people feel guilty? Or, my favorite, this is race baiting. Here they come. All of them, right? Like roaches when the lights get turned on. The I'm not a racist but crowd. The Constitution cosplayers. And they'll tell you this video is anti-American. That is revisionist. That we're just doing this for clout. No, champ. This isn't a performance. This is what truth sounds like when you finally stop duct taping it to your nostalgia. If the idea of honoring Native warriors who saved your grandfather's life makes you uncomfortable, maybe the problem isn't the video. And I wouldn't tell your grandfather about it. Maybe the problem isn't that you're just mad history doesn't kiss your ass. I mean, let's clear something out. This isn't about guilt. This isn't about wokeness. This is about accuracy. You don't get to airbrush Native Americans out of World War II just because your social studies teacher phoned it in during chapter 14. And those aren't opinions. Those are facts. You can Google them. You can go to the Smithsonian and see them. You can go to Arizona to the memorial to see the names. Hell, I did that part for you. And if you're still upset, you're not defending history. You're just mad that history isn't defending you. Now, to be fair, someone might ask is, why does everything have to be political? I mean, I take my channel specifically away from the political misinformation because it's so toxic. But they were literally banned from speaking their own language. They asked to weaponize it for the country that tried to kill it. That's not political. That's survival under fire. If you can't sit through that without crying about your feelings, maybe you're not emotionally qualified for history. It's political because politicians made it so. These aren't woke warriors. These aren't influencers. They didn't march for headlines or hashtags. They did what needed to be done in silence and got forgotten for it. I mean, you're just mad that they're finally being remembered without asking for your permission. If telling their story makes you angry, good. I don't give a shit. That's how growth works. That's how reality works. And that's how history heals. Not by comforting the comfortable, but by making them look in the fucking mirror. So go ahead, cry in the comments. I'll enjoy it. I'll drink those cosplayer tears. Rage in your group chat. Shout virtue signaling from the rooftops like it's a fucking magic spell. Meanwhile, the rest of us will be out here doing what you're too scared to do. Telling the truth, loud and apologetic. You're not defending history. You're just defending the version that made you feel special. The real version doesn't need your approval, just your attention. So why does any of this matter? I mean, because the story of the Code Talkers isn't just military trivia. It's a gut check for what this country is and what it claims to be. It matters because these men did everything right and still got ignored. They volunteered, they trained, they served, they saved lives. And when they were told to shut up and fade out, it matters because most of us never learned their names. Not because they weren't heroes, but because someone decided that kind of heroism didn't sell enough flags or war bonds. It matters because their language, the very thing the military once tried to eradicate, became the shield that kept thousands of Americans alive. And when it went right back to being ignored, underfunded, under threat, and treated like a relic instead of the national asset it is. As of May 2025, today, only 2 of the original 400 Native Code Talkers are still alive. All the others are gone. Their voices are now silent forever. Not because they chose to be quiet, but because we chose to listen too late. By the way, those 2 remaining, I know their names. Peter McDonald, Thomas Begay. And they were just some of hundreds more never officially acknowledged. They didn't ask to be famous, but we should fucking be ashamed that we let them go unknown. I served in the Navy. I worked in SIGINT. I know what it means to carry information that lives and dies by how fast and how accurately you can move it. And let me say this just plainly. Every signal tech in the world owes a debt to those Code Talkers. They were the prototype, the proof of concept, the human firewall, and nobody's matched them since. You want to honor them? Tell their story in schools, in museums, on days that just aren't labeled Heritage Month. Put their names in code books. Name a ship after them. Fund the preservation of their language. Stop making their culture a seasonal costume and start treating it like the national treasure it fucking is. Because these men didn't just speak in code, they wore the damn code. Unbreakable, unrecognized, and unforgettable. If you're paying attention. They fought for a country that did not deserve them then. And if we keep erasing them, it doesn't deserve to claim them now. But they still fought. They still served, still saved lives because real warriors don't wait for a thank you. They do the job anyway. And as someone who served in the shadows, tracking signals, interpreting chatter, protecting lives with silence and circuitry, I can tell you this. What the Navajo Code Talkers did wasn't just clever. It wasn't just historic. It was sacred. They built a code that was never broke. They spoke freedom in a language this country tried to erase, and they did it for a flag that didn't always fly for them. I've worn the uniform. I've sat behind the screens just like these. I've read the names of men who never came home, but I will never stop being in awe of the Navajo Code Talkers for their brilliance, their sacrifice, and their unbreakable loyalty to a country that didn't deserve them, but damn sure needed them. So to the few still standing, Peter McDonald, Thomas Begay, and to every voice that once carried a message through the fire and chaos from one cryptologic warrior to another. You didn't just serve. You set the standard. You earned the silence, and you stayed unbreakable. This is Unfornicated, and we are out. So, yeah, this is something that is very, very close to me for various reasons. This is something that is, when I started writing this probably a week or two ago, I think, and I started learning more. I mean, I knew a lot of the story. I've seen the movie. I've seen a few of the other things too, but I admit I was ignorant on some of these things, and I'm in that same kind of group of signals intelligence. So it was odd for me to find something that I didn't kind of already know, because the World War I code talkers weren't mentioned in my school, but the Navajo ones were. What about the rest of the tribes? It's almost like, let's make up for everything else by just giving a small acknowledgement over here. And to be perfectly honest, when they went so far as to remove websites from the Department of Defense website, that irked me. It annoyed me. It literally pissed me the fuck off. And it was offline for 2 fucking weeks until veterans organizations and families and the public raised enough fucking ruckus to get them to say, whoops, hold up. Maybe it's not DEI, because it's not DEI if it's your whole fucking culture that saves your life. So for those who are still here, I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening to this. This is a very different, I won't say tone, but subject matter, maybe presentation than what you're used to. But I felt it was important. And to be honest, Emma asked me about this when she heard that I was in signals intelligence, and it's a story that I enjoy. So let me go through a couple of mentions. I am way behind on here, so if I miss any of your mentions, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Please tell me that I was talking the whole fucking time. Oh, that was back when I was muted. Okay, thank God. All right, I caught up. If I was muted the whole fucking time, I would have been pissed. So let's see. Stop the stupidity. Hey, thanks for being here. I know you got hail, tornadoes, and God knows what the fuck else going on down there. So stay safe, bud. And thank you for being here. Let's see. Coco Rose, unfortunately, with the current admin, anything considered DI is being hidden away. Absolutely. And that's the reason why I did this video. Pure and simple. I would have done this. I would have done this on my own. But it sure as hell would have had a lot different tone. But I think one thing I've been consistent with is my tone with this channel. Now, this may be a little more abrupt tone than usual, but I think it's warranted. Big Fish. As a non-U.S. citizen, I learned about code talkers via the film. I had no idea that their history was unrecognized and had been buried. I don't know whether I'm more sad or angry or both. Welcome to my world, Big Fish. The silence on its people is shameful from the Copium Emporium. Absolutely. And yes, STS, they should be honored as heroes because that's what they were. I mean, without the Navajo's code talkers in the Pacific, we don't win. I mean, we talked about Rochert and how we went after Japan and we, baited them into a trap at Midway. Yeah, okay, great. That got us Hawaii and Midway. What about everything from the Philippines all the way up to Okinawa? Yeah. That would have been delaying the inevitable. That's it. Jack Fetter says, we're too busy naming carriers, airports, and highways after former actors who became president. Cheers to that. Thank you, Dan, for this. Beautifully done. Thank you. Stop this stupidity. I greatly appreciate it. I'm glad you guys stuck around for it. I'm glad that my tone is I chose my tone specifically. And I'm glad that my tone is resonates with people because yes, I'm angry. This is ridiculous. You know, I come from a place of privilege within the military because it's modern day, it's recent. I'm white. I didn't do anything, never done anything. I did my job. But these guys did their job. And their job was a hell of a lot harder than anything I did. And by far, got treated a hell of a lot worse than I did. I had VA benefits. I had a GI Bill. I had medals galore. I can go pull them off the wall to show you them if I really wanted to, because I don't even give a shit about those. And here's the thing. They never cared about theirs either. But just a recognition, being able to, I mean, think about it. People came home from serving in the military and couldn't vote. That's ridiculous. And look, let's say that the 40s and 50s we learned our lesson. And by 68, we kind of figured, all right, wait, maybe we should recognize these. You recognized one. The next one, you didn't recognize the Choctaws for another 3 years. And it was 90 years too late. It's ridiculous and shameful, all in all. It really is. Yes, caller, that was the movie. It was Wind Talkers with Nicolas Cage. And you're right. Stop the Stupidity. It was an awesome movie. But the interesting thing about it is, I just realized my light on my phone has been on this whole fucking time. The interesting part about it is that it sort of touches on the racism within the ranks, their training, how they were treated in the beginning. But, you know, it's your typical Hollywood whitewash. I mean, here, hold on. Let me pull up. I did find some pictures. Let me bring them up real quick so I can show you guys. Let's see. Let's move this over here. Let's move this over here. Where's full screen on this? All right. All right, this new setup is getting a little weird. I now have 3 screens. So my mouse is like going back and forth, and I mean, it looks a little strange. Here's a picture from the offensive from World War I. This is what the Choctaws were in. Here's a Navajo Code Talker on, I believe this one was Iwo Jima. You know, here's the sands. If anyone's ever served in sandy environments, you know that shit gets everywhere and not in the greatest of places. Here's the memorial that's in Arizona. These are the original 29 with their names of the original Navajo Code Talkers. And this is them showing up at the Army fort. I forget what fort it was. fuck it. I can't remember off the top of my head. But notice what they're wearing. These aren't uniforms. This is them showing up. Hey, we're here. Nice little jungle environment because, you know, it's not all sand and beaches. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, Calder. I started off with the mute with my mic muted because I was rocking out to my entrance songs because I actually enjoy them, and I have to mute my microphone because otherwise it gets picked up. And I always forget to unmute it. It just happens. But overall, I think you guys only got 1 or 2 bingo cards out of this. You know, and bingo hits. Getting a little better at this now. Almost like I know what the fuck I'm doing. All right, so that was basically an hour presentation. I hope, again, you guys enjoyed it like I did. If you guys have any questions, by all means, tag me in there. If there's anything else you want to talk about, you can do that. I'll go ahead and wait out a little bit. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a song that Emma made for this one. True, you're doing disappointingly well tonight. I'm sorry, Emma, we couldn't get your bingo card filled out. So Emma did a song through Suno for this. And while there is a mispronunciation because AI, this song to me is great. I think it carries the tone, it carries the message that I want to carry on. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut to a to the title screen. I'm going to go ahead and play that song. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one better. Hold up a minute. Because for those who don't know what Iwo Jima was like, what Saipan was like, it's, you know, it was very different. Most of these places didn't have fresh water. Most of these places were, you know, hot, humid, everything else. But I'm going to go ahead and put up a video. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to have a video playing in the background. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm going to play this song. And I'm going to go use the bathroom a little bit. And I'm going to go get another drink. So I got a question. Which is full? Of course. Of fucking course. All right, hold on a second. You know what? No, we'll just do it this way. I don't care. Okay, having 3 screens to move your mouse across, it's like my arm isn't quite that long. Whoops. All right.
The world was burning far across the foam. Lost secrets echoed far from home. They sought a tongue no foe could seize, beneath the western wind and trees. From Dine lands the call they knew, to speak the words forever true. Oh, the code talkers' voices strong and deep, while the world around them was asleep, to the power held within their tongue, a hero story sadly sung. They spoke for freedom, paid the price, then faced a future cold as ice. On distant islands veiled in smoke, through chaos raging, someone spoke, in words like thunder, swift and clear, dispelling doubt, dispelling fear. Commands were sent, the lines held true, by voices only freedom knew. Oh, the code talkers' voices strong and deep, while the world around them was asleep, to the power held within their tongue, a hero story sadly sung. They spoke for freedom, paid the price, and faced a future cold as ice. When flags were waving bright and bold, their silent stories stayed untold. They walked on soil they fought to free, still bound by wartime secrecy. No parades for them, no cheering sound, just sacred footsteps on the ground. Oh, the years rolled by, the silence kept the pain, through sun and wind, through snow and rain. Their sacred words, a weapon forged, a nation's debt too long gorged. The truth emerged, a light appeared, but scars remain and wrongs are feared. Oh, the code talkers, their quiet steps upon the sand, the heroes of a foreign land, then back to walk on native ground, where silence waits, a lonely sound. Remember them, remember now, the code talkers, somehow.
All right, y'all, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. If you do have a libation, raise up a glass for those unsung heroes. No matter how hard they tried to delete them and forget them, they remain unbroken. And to be honest, I can't thank them enough. So salute to the Code Talkers, and we're going to check out for tonight.
was burning far across the foam. Lost secrets echoed far from home. They sought a tongue no foe could seize beneath the western wind and trees. From Dine lands the call they knew, to speak the words forever true. Oh, the code talkers' voices strong and deep, while the world around them was asleep, to the power held within their tongue, a hero story sadly sung. They spoke for freedom, paid the price, then faced a future cold as ice. On distant islands veiled in smoke, through chaos raging, someone spoke in words like thunder, swift and clear, dispelling doubt, dispelling fear. Commands were sent, the lines held true, by voices only freedom knew. Oh, the code talkers' voices strong and deep, while the world around them was asleep, to the power held within their tongue, a hero story sadly sung. They spoke for freedom, paid the price, and faced a future cold as ice. When flags were waving bright and bold, their silent stories stayed untold. They walked on soil they fought to free, still bound by wartime secrecy. No parades for them, no cheering sound, just sacred footsteps on the ground. Oh, the years rolled by, the silence kept the pain, through sun and wind, through snow and rain. Their sacred words, a weapon forged, a nation's debt too long gorged. The truth emerged, a light appeared, but scars remain and wrongs are feared. Oh, the code talkers, their quiet steps upon the sand, the heroes of a foreign land, then back to walk on native ground, where silence waits, a lonely sound. Remember them, remember now, the code talkers. Some